You got to push it through, regardless of what's going on in the world. You just got to push it through. Welcome to Now Ordinary Woman Chat Show. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Now Chat Show with your girls, Caz and Janelle.
Yeah, and as you know, Now Chat Show is a platform to inspire. So thank you all for joining us. We can see that you're joining in. Tracy, I see you. Queens LM, I see ya. June, I see you. Nikki, I see ya. You know, it's been an interesting weekend, right? 24 hours. Caz and I actually went to the march yesterday. And I think one of the things that was so beautiful about it was to see the amount of people and just people from all different backgrounds, all different races coming together with one unified voice for something that is really affects us all. You know, it's such a powerful statement, and especially how young people were, right?
Absolutely. What I found was interesting about the young people at the protest yesterday was that they were just really, they weren't having it. You know, even when you looked at their posters, what they were writing down, even those, you know, from different ethnic minorities, and they were taking responsibility of what their ancestors actually took place and what they've done, you know, apologising for what their ancestors have done and things like that, you know. And I just think that is just like so powerful to actually witness that and see that in that generation, you know. And it kind of makes me think about even when we were their age, Janelle, you know, would you have ever gone on a march?
At that age,
it wasn't even...
I don't know, to be honest. In my 20s, I don't know. I don't think I witnessed anything like this in my 20s that stirred me up to say I'm going to go and march. Do you see what I mean?
I mean, even regarding even like Stephen Lawrence, you know, like when he was murdered and everything else, I don't even recall even seeing, or, you know, I know that obviously people were protesting and everything about it, but at the time that wasn't something that was like the main focus within my household. Not saying it was dismissed, it wasn't a case where it was dismissed, but it was just not you know, it just didn't have the impact of what I actually saw yesterday and what we've been seeing throughout the world.
Throughout the world, in every city, pretty much, every major city, you know, every country. This is just, the wave and the ripple effect is just, you know, it's something that I never thought we would witness, but it's happening and we're really glad that it's happening.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously under the circumstances, we always give condolences to those who have lost loved ones, especially to George Floyd, his family and everybody else, you know. But I just feel in a way it's like because they were chosen for such a time like this, it means that we now have to make their lives mean something, because it's about us as black people, you know what I'm saying? This is our struggle, and now people are just like, I don't give a damn, I'm not having it anymore, I'm not going to dress it up, I'm going to speak it out, you know, why did you not get in contact with me as my work colleague? You know, your silence, it just speaks volumes that you just don't give a damn, do you know what I mean? And I think what we're both experiencing as well to a certain extent, I'm not saying all my white colleagues, is that stop trying to make yourself be the victim, you know, like, I'm sorry, no disrespect or anything, you didn't go through what we've been through. You could never imagine what we've been through our ancestors, the post-traumatic disorder that we're dealing with. Do you know what I mean? Even with our young people, you know, I want to big up Brittany as well, because she did an amazing presentation this afternoon on Zoom talking about the post-traumatic slave syndrome as well. So I want to just big up to Brittany in Atlanta. It was very insightful, very knowledgeable, and you know, as black people, we just got to educate ourselves. That's the next step in terms of our healing.
Definitely. So as you know, Caz and I went live last week, and thanks for those that joined us. We actually went on for 3 hours. We didn't expect that. So many of you wanted to join the live. So many of you wanted to talk. And as we said last week, this isn't a platform to rant. This isn't a platform to blame. This isn't a platform for hate. This is a platform where we need to offer real solutions to the problem that's going on. And every opinion, every voice counts in that. So we're going to welcome you guys to join the live. We've got a few guests lined up, but we are going to welcome you guys to join the live to give your opinion. We actually touched on the last time with Miael Bigs McGeachy about repatriation. You know, some are saying, well, the West doesn't want us anyway. Why do we want to stay in a place that we're not wanted? There is, you know, a motherland that we have come from, we've originated from, that's there for us. That's there for us to go and invest. That's there for us to go and live. That's there for us to go and work. And that's there for us to go and make a life. And, you know, so many people were really interested in that. So many people have said to us, we want to explore that in more detail. So we're going to bring Biggs on soon. Biggs, we see you. We'll request you soon. But I guess we just want to explore, you know, the theme is whether it's realistic. Is repatriation realistic? Is it realistic for us to say, okay, we're done with this. We're done with the hate here. We're just going to pick up and go back to Africa or even go back to the Caribbean. Is that a realistic option? And is it a solution? We want to explore that in more detail, right?
Absolutely. And I think even with that, it's just understanding the steps that if you do want to do that, what steps do you need to follow? What do you need to abide by? Because it's not as easy, like, for example, if you want to go and live in Ghana, or even if you want to go and live in Jamaica, you do need to have a level of citizenship as well, which also, you know, I find it's quite, not hysterical, but quite sad that we have to go and seek citizenship to where we originally came from, do you know what I mean, kind of thing. And I feel that's quite sad. But it is what it is, and we've just got to look at ways to actually get there based upon where it is that you may want to reside.
Yeah, I think it is what it is, and it's about exploring the land, right? And it's just opening yourself up to opportunities. I said, when our parents came here, when my grandmother came here, she didn't have a clue what she was going to do, but she came for what she felt was a better life. And, you know, ultimately she ended up going back to Jamaica. She came here, she worked all her life here, she cleaned. You know, she cleaned in hospitals, she worked for the NHS, and she couldn't wait to go back. And now, in reflection, I understand why she was so desperate to go back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think even with that, you know, Janelle, because we've spoken about this on many occasions, is sometimes we're always trying to build that perfect picture of how that would look like, you know, in terms of you want to have the job, you want to have certain money put aside and things like that. And sometimes you just got to step out. We met an amazing man yesterday when we was at the protest. He was a security guard. Ambrose, big you up if you're on the live right now. And he spoke about him coming from Sierra Leone with literally nothing, you know, didn't have no family, no nothing. And, you know, he's got a family of 3, he's been grafting, he's just made a life for himself because he just didn't feel that he had that opportunity in Sierra Leone. But he had nothing. So it's not impossible. And I think it's just us unraveling that kind of conditioning mindset of things that's got to be put in place. Because equally, to be quite honest, we're born entrepreneurs. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Born
entrepreneurs, but we've just been conditioned to do things in a certain way.
Conditioned to be slaves to the system.
Come on.
So for those of you out there who are watching, who are interested in really exploring an opportunity to maybe go back to Africa or maybe go back to the Caribbean, this is for you. And also there are those of you out there who will think, well, why should I have to? So we're going to explore that argument as well. So Biggs, we're going to request you now. I hope you're ready to join us. All right, so as we wait for Biggs to join us, guys, this is going to be interactive. We want you to engage. We want to hear your views. We want to hear your opinions. So yeah, send us questions.
Yes.
Yo.
Hello.
Hello, greetings.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Just having my tea. Yeah.
Cheers.
Yes.
Yeah. You see, that's our English side that we'll never get rid of. Cup of tea, always.
Cup of tea, love. But you know what? It's such a pleasure. The response that was garnered from last week in terms of, you know, us exploring what's been happening, us looking for solutions, and obviously you talking about the fact that you're in Tanzania and you really showing us a real side to what it can be like, considering moving to Africa and starting a life there. And you know, it was so powerful listening to you. We had so many people contact us and say they want to hear more.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine say, I'm on that train with you, don't leave me behind. So, you know, we just wanted you to talk kind of more about that, more about the practicalities of that, really. I guess the first question is, what inspired you? Because we didn't really touch on that the last time. What inspired you to say, let me see what I can do over here?
You know, it's like you said, it's funny. There's so many different angles of looking at this. There's a lot of people, I think younger people would say, like, why should we have to leave, or why should we choose to go anywhere? But as you said, a lot of us who had parents came to England looking for a better life. And in some aspects, you know, there were certain economic opportunities that we found in the UK and America and other places. But I'm not sure if we found that better life, you know. So I think a lot of people, we drove the buses for 40 years. We were the backbone of the NHS for 56 years. We're the backbone of the British civil service for the last 65 years. You know, you can't go into a job center and it's not an Afro-Caribbean woman servicing your needs. Same as the NHS. Where would the NHS be without our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunties? So we know this. To me, Africa was always a very viable opportunity. For one, the first time I came, the first time I came to Africa was about 12 years ago. And what blew my mind, what surprised me the most, as I said, when I came, I thought I was being very revolutionary, and it's, you know, it's very unique. Africa is a bush, there's lions, I'm making a big revolutionary step. And I was amazed to find out how modernized the place was, for one. How many white people were living and working and making money here, for two. And just lots of things, you know, it blew my mind that this was a very viable place to live, create a business, get educated in certain standards about our natural way of life, like where we came from, you know. So what inspired me to come here was a better life, basically. The same thing that inspired our grandparents to come to the UK.
Yeah. You said that you were blown away. You were blown away by what you saw. You were blown away by the amount of white people there. You know, so obviously you had an expectation. And I just want to explore that a little bit more, because where did that expectation come from that was blown out of the water? Where did that start from?
That's what we were taught. I explained to a lot of my brothers and sisters here, like, what happens is we are educationalized and institutionalized in what they call a Cambridge-Oxford educational system. It's the same thing we study all over the Caribbean, the same thing they study here in Africa. And what they've done is they've very purposely separated us as peoples, Afro-Caribbean people and African people. So we feel like we're total separate peoples. And there's lots of things that we are not alike in, but the things that we have in common are a lot more than what we don't have in common. So for example, we were never taught that Africa was great. Any of us who went to school, all you ever saw was Band-Aid and raising money for Africa. And the picture we see of Africa is a starving child with the vultures around it, you know, that very famous picture. So I'm not going to lie, I was very ignorant, just like a lot of young Black Afro-Caribbean people, thinking that we had it better in the Caribbean than people had it in Africa. And when I came to Africa and saw the sprawling mansions, you know, of course, there's a lot of poverty here. I ain't going to try and sell no dream. There's lots of poverty here, but there's also lots of opportunities. You know, so when I came here and saw how people are living, you know, that a lot of our brothers and sisters out here have a much higher standard of life than we do in the UK. We all live in tiny little apartments, and it's not to say we don't work hard. You know, we work very hard. We're the hardest working people ever. That's why they chose to enslave us. You know, this whole Black people's lazy bullshit. That's rubbish. If we were lazy, they would never enslaved us for 400 years.
That's right.
We work from what, sunrise to sunset? And
Exactly.
beyond, do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's a whole heap of BS.
Yeah. We are so hardworking. We are so resourceful and resilient. And you're right. That's why they built really the riches of this world and this empire and the crown. And I'm just going to say it like it is, on our backs. And then
of course,
you're free. Here you go. Go out into the world. You're free. But we were
exactly.
economically, we were enslaved mentally. We didn't know where we came from. Nothing.
It's a trap. What they did, they entrapped us. So it's like, basically, you could say it like this. It's like we're all playing a game of Monopoly, right? You know, I heard somebody say it's a very good way to explain it. And it's like, so me and you are playing a game of Monopoly, but I get to go around the board 400 times before you do. I pass go 400 times before you do. Every time you land on bank, you're not allowed to take out any money. You know, every time you're not allowed to buy any properties. So this whole thing of we all stand on the ground that we walk on and we all have an equal standing, that's not true. Like, some people stand on other people. As we've seen recently, some people put their knees on other people's necks, and that's what they've been doing to black people for a long time. You know, we try to get educated and they fucking have their knees in our necks. Everything we do, it doesn't matter. Like, you have to be twice as smart, twice as fast. One thing they couldn't hold us out of was sports and entertainment. That's because you cannot, but every other aspect, we are the same as we are in sports and in entertainment, in science, in math, in physics, in everything. But they can keep us out of these fields, you know? The thing about Africa is, what I love is when you jump on the plane, especially like Ethiopian Airlines, I love to see there's a black pilot. All the stewardesses are black. You know, you land here, the police officers are black. Of course, some of the police are fucked up. Like, police are fucked up all around the world. Like, to try and become a police officer, you know, there's some kind of glitch in you, I think, because why would a human being want to control another human being on the basis of a system? But the thing about police here is, it's not racial, you know, they're not racist. So
they're just individuals who go into a profession and don't have, you know, don't stand by the oath or abide by the morals that they should, right? So you're right, that racism element is removed. I know there are other issues to do with class and poverty, and so nowhere is perfect. But this whole social construct of race, because that's what it is, I think I explained this before, that, you know, at university I studied this. Racism is an ideology. It was created, manufactured, fabricated by the white man.
Uphold slavery.
To uphold slavery and justify the inhumane treatment of black people.
Of black people.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why they've never apologized. As I said, it's also economic. So this whole us being in the category of other forever. Remember, we never got those 40 acres and a mule, right? Can you imagine if every black person who was a descendant of a slave had to be given the equivalent of a mule and 40 acres of land? Economically, they couldn't afford it. So even if you look at the American Constitution now, slavery is abolished apart from if you're a prisoner. So all the rules and rights begotten to a slave owner and all the rules and rights that are taken away from a slave are still upheld in prison. Look at the prison populations in America. It's all young black men, you know, in prison for things like marijuana. And right now, marijuana is legal. You know, there's white men making millions of dollars, multi-millions of dollars selling marijuana. And there's black men still in prison for selling marijuana. So what the hell does that tell you?
Just having one
personal slave.
That's what you call white privilege.
Yeah, and that's what you call systemic racism as well. And systemic racism feeds into every aspect of our lives daily. We know that in the workplace, in schools, in the healthcare sector. Even if you get on a bus or a train, you may encounter systemic racism. It's just something that we're
getting in a lift.
Getting in a lift.
Getting in a lift, mate.
It's just something
in a shop.
Exactly. It's something that we've become so immune and conditioned to that, you know,
it's been coming like our norm. It's just that this is what we go through. But the thing is, it's not what we should be going through. And I think this is what's all about. What's happening now is people's had enough. Do you know what I mean? You know, people have had enough, and that's why
this is why I say
solutions now.
Yeah, this is why I say it's time to come home, because why should blackness be an offense? I'll tell you why blackness is an offense. Blackness will always be an offense. As a community, as a system, as a civilization, as a generation, we still not have confronted the injustices begotten onto black people by the white European colonial construct. Until those things, I saw they pulling down statues in Bristol, and I love what the youths are doing. Like, this is their fight. You know, if I was in London, this is this generation's fight. If I was in London, I'd be a part of it. I love to see all these young black Asian, and even white people protesting against the racial construct and the injustices. But there's a lot of conversations that need to be had. Like, a lot of young black people and mixed people don't understand that we were brought to the West in the belly of a slave ship, pissing and shitting and vomiting on top of each other, and then worked to death.
Of us next to each other,
right?
Not
exactly.
even being able to get with each other because we don't even speak the same tongue. Do you get what I'm saying?
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, Africa to me is a very viable option. I'm from Jamaica, born and raised, and I love Jamaica, but a lot of people still don't realize the Queen is still the head of the Jamaican government. Most people don't realize that, right? So I'm not saying Jamaica and places like that are not a viable option, but there's a lot of things in place in a lot of these westernized but Europeanized black countries such as Jamaica that's still upheld to keep black people down. You know, the fact that we've sold out most of our industry, you know, this is not a good example, but for example, a pack of cigarettes in Jamaica costs £8 for a pack of Cravenay. The reason is because we sold out the Cravenay factory. So they no longer make our own brand cigarettes in Jamaica. They're imported. So the taxes levied on the local people, like, life is very hard. Life's also hard in Africa, but the space, Africa is like Jamaica times 1,000.
Yeah.
You know, so anyone who loves Jamaica, I see a lot of my friends who maybe even have one Jamaican parent or go on holiday in Jamaica or love Jamaica. They're trying to move back to Jamaica. And I say, boy, that's going to be rough. You know, that's going to be a rough transition because there's so many opportunities here. And as I told you, what blew my mind and it will blow your mind and everyone else's mind is the amount of people who are not of African descent, who are here because they know about Africa. There was a very purposeful thing to miseducate us, black Westerners, about Africa. You know, so we always saw Africa as aligned with poverty, as aligned with, you know, no opportunities. That's total rubbish. Like, all the Arabs here are multimillionaires. The Chinese they bring here, they take them out of the prisons. They're the dog poor Chinese and Indians from Asia and China who don't have anything in their countries. And they come here and they all turn into millionaires and they don't leave. You know, it's us who they purposely keep separated from Africa. And that's a part of the whole neo-pseudo-colonialism thing that they're doing right now. You know, everything we create, they take it away. They, you know, they call black culture urban culture. What the fuck is urban? You know, we need to get rid of that urban shit. It's black music, black culture. It's not urban culture.
And we run with it, Biggs. This is the thing, we run with it. Do you know what I mean? Everything that's been told to us, like, I totally agree with you in terms of this, call it urban culture, urban music. And we as black people, we run with it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like we're
That's because we've been abused for so long. We just accept anything that we take. So little things like, you know, I think black men and black women have different struggles, and then we also have the same struggle. Like, you can talk to anyone. Is only a black man will understand what I'm about to say. And anyone comment if you've ever had this experience. You know, in the UK and in Europe, being a black man, I tell you what being a black man is. It's walking down the street in the night, coming home from a club, and seeing a white woman walking up the street with her, and you cross the road because you don't want to offend her or scare her. You know, it's walking far away from somebody's phone and a fucking table in a restaurant just so to save them the embarrassment of putting their phone back in the bag. We get used to these things. Like, I do these things all the time. We stay away from old white ladies because I don't want her to have that pressure of fearing if I'm going to attack her. You know?
We have been so conditioned that we now overcompensate. We overcompensate. We don't even realize that we're overcompensating to make them feel comfortable. Why do we do this?
Exactly.
We have to start to unpick why we do this, you know? I mean, I've had my own interesting encounters this week. I'm not going to go into them on the live, but where because of what's happened, for me, it's a global issue. It's a global thing that's happened. You cannot, unless you are, I don't know, living in a totally different realm in the twilight zone, you can never, ever deny what is going on. But for some people, and it's interesting because the ripple effect has created a discourse everywhere. Discourse in the workplace, discourse among friendship circles, discourse among social circles. And I've had some of that discourse. And to be honest, I had to pull myself away from certain things because I was like, you know what? I'm done with trying to make you feel comfortable. You know, this affects everybody. If like I said last time, if it was a bombing or if it was some kind of catastrophic event like that, people would speak out. Everybody would be talking about it. It's a talk shop. But it's like, well, this is your black issue. I don't really need to talk about it.
It's
not
my problem.
Not my problem, mate. You guys sort it out. Well, no, that is not the case. This is everybody's problem. We need to figure this out together. And I'm not going to apologize anymore in any conversations that I have. I have to speak my truth. And speaking that truth is so liberating.
It is liberating because then you become your true, authentic self. Do you know what I'm saying? You're no longer having to play a game or you have to tone down yourself and smile up yourself to make somebody else feel comfortable. You just want them to understand this is what you're going through. And if you don't like it, that's your business. You know what I'm saying? You just have to get militant with these people now. And I'm sorry if there's, you know, anybody feels away and you're white and etc. But this is our pain. This is what we've been carrying. You understand what I'm saying? And we've had enough now. We're tired of having somebody's knee on our neck.
Tired. You know, we've been through the raft of emotions. We've been through the tears. We've been through the just feeling helpless. We've been through the inspiration and the fire. And it's just this continuous gamut of emotions that we've been going through. But what is really important is that these conversations are happening. So, Biggs, I just want you to talk a little bit about. So you said that you first went to Africa 12 years ago. You're now in Tanzania. You've got a farm there. You know you've got roots there. You've created an investment there. Tell us how did you do that?
All right. Well, the farming, I bought this land like 8 years ago, but that time I wasn't in the mindset I was now. Yeah, it was a smart investment because I knew land was something. We can't own land in the UK. I understood that. And the time I bought that land, it was affordable. It was a kind of money where if you had a half decent job and you had a few months worth of savings, you could invest in some land. It was worth, I bought my land for under £4,000. Now it's worth like £40,000 just in the last 8 years, or the last 7 years that I've had it. But I always had it, I'll be honest. So this is about very honest conversations now. So I'm having a real honest conversation. I bought that as kind of like, something to add to my swagger, you know, like, oh, I got land in Africa and it's the next thing for me to talk about and the next thing. But recently, I really felt like it was my future self that went out to the young man Biggs and was like, fucking buy this land when you have the money. Because now I've never felt happier. I've never felt more content. And I've never actually felt like I'm doing something better than what I'm actually doing now. I have 6 acres of land in a place called Bagamoyo. It's actually the old Arab slave trade center of Africa. So it's where all the slaves from the Arab slave route came through. And Bagamoyo actually means where I lay my heart. There's a door of no return there, just like in Elmina Castle that the Omanis built. And why it's called where I lay my heart is because so many of the Africans who were marched all the way from Central Africa, straight from even West Africa, straight through to East, had such, you know, some of them had never seen the ocean before. And they came up to this coast in Bagamoyo after walking 1,000 miles, 1,500 miles, forced marches, enslaved people. And a lot of them had a heart attack. Their heart exploded and they died. And just the fear of seeing the ocean and these Arab ships waiting to take them away gave them, and so many of them died of heart attacks. The city is called Where My Heart Lays. So it's where I lay down my heart. And my land is about 6 kilometers in from the coast. And right now it's prime real estate, as I'm saying. A lot of the ministers and a lot of the rich Tanzanian people all building holiday homes there. When I bought the land, it was forest. Nobody lived there, just a few farmers and stuff like that, a few village people. Right now there's houses sprouting up everywhere. How I got into the farming was, I just figure like, you see the way the world's going. I don't want to be like a doomsday kind of a fearmonger or a doomsday prepper or whatever, but I just feel like food security is very important, especially for us, you know, like we don't have any food security. We don't have any toilet paper security. Like if the system decides they ain't gonna fucking sell us toilet paper, we better decide we're gonna wash our asses again. Like we don't have shampoo security. All our sisters are still buying all their hair products from Asian people. We don't have hair security. Like there's so much security we don't have. And I feel like this is a time when we're starting to master our own security and our own security systems. And I feel like food security is massive. I'm going to import all that food into the UK, you know, and I expect all you guys to buy from me, you know.
Trust me. Tell me when, Bigs. You know, we want to not only support black business, but the food is real. We want to taste the real food from the earth, and you know, just knowing that you have been there creating that. As I say, I see you planting your sweet potato. I see you planting in your okra. Yeah, you know, avocado, please.
Bigs, I just want
avocados take long to grow.
Bigs, I know you obviously spoke about you buying the land, but in terms of when you bought the land, did you obviously went over there? What was the process like in terms of, you know, saying, right, this is the land that I'm going to buy? How was that exchange? Was it quite straightforward?
No, it wasn't straightforward at all. I can explain to you a few different countries because I've traveled a lot in Africa. Tanzania is quite complicated, but for a good reason, not a bad reason. So this was, Julius Nyerere was the father of the nation. He was a communist. He was a very famous African communist, a very good friend of Mao Zedong, and he was also a very good friend of Michael Manley, who was our democratic socialist prime minister in the 1970s and some parts of the mid-80s. They ran something called the non-aligned movement, which was people against the whole East-West Cold War thing that was happening. And all the Cold War was two white countries getting black people and Asian people to kill each other on their behalf for their political beliefs. So, so long story short, nobody owns land in Tanzania. You own the lease and you own what's on your land. So that doesn't mean the government can take your land from you. But how they set that up was so foreigners couldn't come in and buy up all the land. So that might sound contradictory to what I said earlier when I said lots of Arabs and Chinese have land here. No, it's not. What they do is they buy the leasehold. So the lease is 100-year, 200-year, 300-year lease. So it's land you can pass down to your children, your children's children, your children's children. But what they have in place is so you can't just buy land and leave it barren, and then there's poor tribal people who live nearby who can't get to use that land. So if they see that your land is being used, the government can reallocate it to local people who farm and use the land. So for example, my 6 acres now have been farmed. So I have no issues. Like, they know it's a fully functioning farm. So how you buy land here is you have to have a Tanzanian on the thing as well, right? You have to have a Tanzanian on the land deed if you want to get official. A lot of people don't buy land with land deeds, but I wouldn't suggest that at all. I have a deed title for my land. So how you do it, the mother of my children is Tanzanian, of course, so I was lucky in that behalf, but I also have another plot of land that I bought, so I understand how to do it without Tanzanian on it. So there's 2 forms of government here, just like everywhere else. You have local government and then the mainstream government. So the village council is who you buy your land off. So you go, every village has a village leader. So you find out where you are, who's a village leader, who's everything. You never go and just buy land off of somebody randomly who says they have the land. What happens is, I see this a lot happen to people. So land gets passed down from generation to generation. Say a man dies and he leaves 5 acres, but he has 5 sons. But one of his sons can sell you the land, and the other 4 sons can come and contest it soon after. And then you'll have a big legal battle over your land and all these kind of things, you know? So what you do is you go to the village council, you find out who's the head of the village. It's normally an old woman and an old man. They normally have a woman, and you know, African society, as I'm learning here, is like, it's very fair in many ways. Normally the head of the village is normally some old woman who's like the oldest woman, who's like probably granny to like half the people in the village. And she has a big say in the village. When you need workers, when you need whatever, you go speak to her and she's going to tell you like, this guy's good for that, that guy's good for that, blah, blah, blah. So you go to the village council, you get your land deed, you buy your land, you get the land stamped, you take it to the local government, your government stamps your land, you pay your land tax, and then that's it. And then once you farm the land, but the thing is here, as a foreigner, it's not that easy. You need a work permit or a residence permit. It's not, so Tanzania is not that easy. Kenya is a lot easier, but I prefer Tanzania for that reason. Tanzania is a lot less colonized mentally than places like Kenya. And I might get some stick for saying that, but it's a militant country. You can see the president, like, he hasn't really bought into this WHO corona initiative and things like that. He was the one who tested the papaya and the papaya came up positive for corona, which was international news all over the world. So that's the kind of country we're in right now. It's a very pro-black country, but they're very friendly, very open people, you know.
So Eunice just asked, how much was the land? I need to get it, but can you repeat, how much was the land?
Land is all different prices. Like, as I said, my land now is worth about 40 grand. But I didn't buy it for anything close to that. I bought it for about 4 grand.
Wow.
And I remember last you said you can even buy land for like £500.
Yeah, that land for £500. My land is prime land. You can get land for up to £300 an acre, but I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. Like, for example, there's some black Americans here who I'm helping to buy 2 acres next to me. Now, the guy had said he had the 2 acres next to me are worth about $8,000 now, which is maybe like £6,000. And the guy had said he had saw land for a lot cheaper, for maybe like $500 an acre. But when he showed me on the map, I said, you don't want land in those places. Those places are like 60 kilometers away from a main road. No water source. You're in the middle of nowhere. Like, anything could happen to you. There's no chance you're ever going to get electricity down there in the next 40 years. Like, where my land is a half a mile away from the main road. So it's considered, it's not, when I bought it, so there's 2 types of land here. There's one land that they call shamba. Shamba means farm. So that just basically means bushland, what you cultivate and you farm. And there's plot land. Plot land is where you buy to build a house. So when I bought my land, it was registered as shamba land, but now it's plot land, you know? So things change, as I say. So right place to invest, because just in the 8 years, my land's gone up maybe 8 or 9-fold. The registration of my land's changed. Like, I would never think to sell my land right now, you know? Like, it's like gold. Even the villagers come and tell me, like, your farm's banging. Because I've invested in it. Of course, I have more liquid cash than the local people there. So my farm is going to look a little bit better. My fence, the stuff I'm farming, I can afford to try things. Farming's not easy. My next door neighbor farmed 2 acres of cassava, and the rains were so heavy this year, he lost the 2 acres. So now he was thinking to sell that land. So that's why I'm trying to find somebody to buy the land. A lot of people are very interested. It's a really nice farm.
You might even have some buyers on this. Some prospective buyers looking out on this. You know what I love about what you've also done, Biggs, is, you know, I love the way that you said it was probably your future self speaking some sort of voice into your younger self's ear, and you didn't realize it, but now it's kind of fallen into place. But not only that, you are employing local people. You're investing in the country, you're employing local people, and guess what else? You are willing to share the knowledge that you have with others.
And that's key, because a lot of people are doing their moves, and you look at them, it's all about them. You know what I'm saying? They don't even share that knowledge. Do you know what I'm saying? Because right now, a lot of people are on here because they want that information. They want to know how do they go about it. And, you know, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing.
Someone said, give us the give me the deets. Obviously, the deets of the land. I just want to we're going to let you go, because we have got Kaya, Tally Lotus is lined up. Tally, we're going to try you in a minute, because you've also bought land, and you've bought land in Zambia. So we want to hear about your experience. But there's a couple of people on here. There's you know, there's different views, and that's what we want. It's all about debate. So Krisha, Coach Levine has said, yes, it's realistic. She's done it twice in the last 2 years in East Africa, including Tanzania. And I know that that's Trish's long-term goal. But then Maurice said it can happen, but it won't happen, at least not in our lifetime. I think I think personally I'm of a different
What's that you mean?
Sorry?
What won't happen in our lifetime, is he saying?
Repatriation. I think repatriation is what, and clarify me wrong if you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Maurice, but I believe what he's saying is repatriation won't happen in our lifetime. Now, I'm of a different belief that anything you want is achievable. That's
Absolutely.
it.
And it's going back to even what Nyla was saying last week, you know, and the 14-year-old, Coach Carla's daughter, she was saying, if we're going to keep on saying things, like, if we're going to keep on, I'm kind of like summarizing and putting my own words into it, but if you're going to keep on speaking death into the situation, then that's what's going to happen. I think we need to just be more optimistic. We need to, you know, go by our faith and believe. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, that's what we need to lean on. It's just, you know, we are determined for the change, so we need to make it happen. It's not impossible. Go by your faith.
That's right.
It will happen. What we need is unity. We just need some unity. Exactly.
Oh, and on that note, you've left us with a beautiful aspiration that is realistic and it's achievable. It's about unity. So, Caz and I, as soon as the planes are back up and running, mate,
come and work on the farm. Yeah. Come work on the farm. I got work for you guys.
You got work? Mate, I'm coming on holiday.
A work holiday.
Yeah. Me no mind.
Okay, Biggs, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy yourself there and keep pushing and keep striving. We love you. Sending lots of love and blessings. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Oh, bless.
Wow,
gosh, you need to come by some land.
Well, Zainab just said, Zainab chimed in and she said that she's bought some land out there, and we're gonna bring Tally on in a minute. Somebody's actually just requested us, but it's doable. I think back to your point, you speak life into something, it will happen. You speak death, it's gonna die.
That's it.
So it's all in the power of our minds and within our capabilities. Nothing is impossible. And if, like Big said, if there's loads of white people there, Arabs, whatever. If they can do it,
people that they're not even like the top end. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? So we're building this country. We've been building economies. So there's nothing impossible for us. We just need to change our mindset. Change that mindset.
And this is part of it. So let's see who we have up next. Tally, we're gonna add you in. Gift of manhood, we are gonna come to you, but we're just gonna add Tally in now. Now, this is an amazing queen.
Oh my gosh, Tally. We had Tally on the platform about the first season, actually. So do check her out. Her amazing story, because she also has a sound system.
Can you guys see me?
We can't see you.
We need to see your beautiful face.
I know. I'm trying to. Maybe I need to log.
Are you near your router?
I am near enough.
Or maybe should we try again? We can try again.
Yeah, maybe
we'll try again. We'll oh,
and
then there was a lie.
How are you doing?
Good. How you go?
I'm amazing, absolutely amazing, and yeah, I'm so happy that I got to be on this live today. I saw the post with regards to obviously repatriation and Bigs and so on and so forth, and I just thought obviously it's very timely, and obviously issues very close to my heart as a black woman in the UK, and with everything that's happening. I haven't been as vocal because I think the whole thing for me has been very emotional, but I wanted to come on here because I feel that I wanted to say like key things, which is everything that our parents came to get has already been got. We've done everything in the sense of like very much like what Big said. We've built the NHS. I work in the NHS and have done for a period of time. I'm 36 years old. I've got an 18-year-old daughter, and I very much committed myself to the systems. But my granddad came here in like 1954, worked, at least 60 years here. And everything that they came to get has already been got. So it's time to go. There's no more kind of like waiting until we retire. There's no need, because we're not going to get anything more than what's already been got. So that whole mentality of I need to pay into my pension to get enough is that we've just bought into their system, because that's what that's what they wanted us to do, and that's what we are doing and still doing. But there's no power in that. The power is in working as we and working as us, because don't get me wrong, it's beautiful to see the ones and twos of us that are doing it, but we need to be thinking as us, because there's power only in working as us. When you look at the Asians, when you look at the Jews, that's how they work, that's how they make their power moves. Don't get me wrong, those who are in positions of power, they can and they do have a voice, but imagine if there was 10 of them. You know what I'm saying? I'm ultimately an African, and my ancestors were taken to the Caribbean, Guyana and Jamaica. And I've been to Jamaica, I've been to Guyana. And when I was there, the feeling was immense. But when I got off the plane in Zambia, I felt like the resonance in the place and with the place and with that's where my ancestors are, and that's where I'm meant to be. And so, yeah, I'm not of, Biggs picked up on it as well. There was always growing up that separation between Caribbean and African, you know, and no one wanted to be African kind of thing because it was how it was portrayed. But the only way forward, because when you go to Jamaica, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful country. When you go to Guyana, it's a beautiful country, but they're very much colonized just in their mindset. Just I'm saying everything they do, we are creators. Naturally, Black people are creators. Everything we do has its own swag. You know, that's one thing they can't take from us. As Big said, I run a sound system and it's very much in me. Like my dad had a sound system, and what we now need to be thinking of is how we make moves to be in a place which is for us environmentally, for us economically, for us educationally. We need to go of the constraints of this place. And, you know, there's not, it's like, I know someone mentioned earlier, like not in our lifetime. I don't know what, you know, I'd have to have a conversation with that person to really find out where that's coming from. But I feel like we can achieve anything, like you were saying, that we want to. And I very, very much believe it's about working. There's not everyone is like Noah with his ark. Not everyone's going to want to do it. And you just have to move with the like-minded people that do. And then when we've done it, you know, others will maybe catch on. Just like even with the Windrush, not everyone wanted to come at first. And then other people came. They came to England and said, yeah, we're here, we're there. And other people came. That's maybe how, but we have to be, there has to be movers and there has to be shakers. And I'm originally from Brent, Northwest London, and I now live in Bedford. And I moved to Bedford because I knew that I wanted to move, and I had my daughter and I wanted to scale up in a different way. And, you know, I was very, very much alone. And so my mindset became very single-minded because I had this vision. But when you start moving, like how I came to buy land in Zambia was because, as I said, I knew from very young I didn't want to be in the UK. Just my whole spirit from a very young age, I knew that it wasn't the UK.
Sorry, Tally, what triggered that this is not where I'm meant to be feeling? Was it a moment, or was it a
connection to nature? So as a young child, my uncle always used to take me out of London for weekends. And when I was in nature, it resonated with me in a different level whenever I was out of London. And so I knew from very young, like I had a connection, like innate within me, with nature. And so that, like now I live in Bedford, all right, it's not country, but it's a lot more green. And that's because I just feel like that's where my spirit's meant to be. So I knew from very young, I needed to be outside of the UK as a whole. And I started looking like last year, no, not last year, I'd say in the last 3 years, I started thinking about it more consciously. And then last year, what happened was, it was actually my granddad's 95th birthday. And I had only maybe about 2 hours sleep, and I got a link on my phone to say, you know, there's this presentation about buying land in Africa. So I thought, you know what, let me go. Anyway, I went to this meeting, and there was a collective of people that were there. And he's described, you know, like how we can work together. And the biggest thing for me is that, like, when I think about anything that I do, I'm a humanitarian. I'm very much about, like, not even, I'm a humanitarian. So I never want to go somewhere and just make what I'm making. I always want to give back. And what he said, what I really was attracted to was, we're going to buy land, yes, but we're working with Africans, and we're not only going to make a profit, but we're going there to build.
I think that's the key. You know, somebody has said Africa is going to be home. Zainab, and that's Nani Shah's. Zainab has said Africa needs her people and her children from all over the world to come back. There's so many initiatives that are going on in Africa. Leave their lands and their money, you know, and that they're always boasting about it. So there's really something going on that the truth is in plain sight, because anybody can jump on a plane, but it's been hidden, if that makes sense. You know, we've just been led to believe that Africa isn't really a viable option.
Well, can I interject? But I mean, even with what's been discussed so far, but there is, you know, there is an identity that's also being taken away from us. So even for myself, when I went to Ghana back in 2008, my first step into the soil of Africa wasn't the greatest.
Yes.
I'm saying, so we have to be also realistic as well, that our ways of doing things and how we are dealt with by other people is not necessarily going to be the greatest hospitality treatment. You understand what I'm saying? So I think we also need to be very realistic in regards to that, because
definitely I agree. Definitely I agree. And I think it's important that we don't just go there with the mindset of like, we're going to go to Africa and build it up, because we're returning. So you have to be aware of the fact that, yeah, you're African and we accept you, but our ways have been very disconnected for, you know, decades, centuries. So I think the key thing is you have to be patient. Like here in the West, we're used to things happening immediately or yesterday, but you got to think every mile starts with a step, and you've got to be willing. So it's a completely different shift. Like sometimes I think, my God, you know, like, is this really it? You know, when I think about doing things, but you've got to have a commitment to the bigger picture, and that's how any other group of people make the moves that they make. They're working as a group. They're not making, not the one and the twos. And that's what it's been for too long when it comes to Black people. There's one, you know, there's one person of reference that you think, okay, yeah, they're doing great. No, why can't it be us as a people? And it should be. And that's where they took us from, you know, and that's, you know, the reason why this is happening is because, again, their systems, they took us away. They made us feel like we couldn't work with it, you know, just to have a little partner with someone. It's, so the man then run after the money or something. Not even, there's no trust. So there's no patience. There's no trust. There's no long-term, you know, everyone wants things instantly. So those are key. And honesty, you know, being able to say, I don't know this, or I don't know. We have to really, what I've called 2020 is the year of reset. And so I feel like it's an ample time for people to be connecting with their heritage, with their roots, you know, and not being afraid of not knowing something, but be willing to ask and be willing to relearn things that they felt were the way, you know. That's what I would say. I'm someone that when I want to do something, I do it, but I've had to think, no, we're going to move, and we're going to make these power moves as a whole, you know. And that's why I'm on here.
It's kind of the same, you know, what's ignited a spark within my family. And I think I was telling you this because, you know, the lockdown has provided opportunity for us to connect in different ways. So we've been having family Zooms and family catch-ups and family conversations with everything that's been going on in the world, and especially what's just recently taken place with the death, you know, the killing of George Floyd. And we've just said we need to come together. It starts with our own household, and it starts with our family. So the first step for us is to pool our resources. We've now got a follow-up Zoom on Tuesday where we are opening an account to pool our resources. The next thing is that we want to buy land. We want to, same as being...
And you must buy land. It's the best investment. You must buy land. I'm not talking about land here in the UK where you get a mortgage and you own maybe, you know, 5-10%. I've got a place here in the UK and it's great, but as we know, mortgage means on to death, you know, like basically it's just their way of entrapping us here in the UK. Don't get me wrong, you know, if you've got one and you can work with it, great, but don't think, if you can go to Africa and build a house for 15 grand, why are you signing up to paying a mortgage of £50,000? It doesn't, you know, we're not done.
Something I said, but that's how we've been conditioned to think, and that's what we're conditioned to do. And also because we've seen our parents doing it as well, you know, our environment's doing the same thing, so we just think this is what we're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? And then you do anything completely opposite, like yourself, like Bigs, it's just like, oh my gosh, no way I can do that, because
number one, African people that don't like me, but you are African. And then, it's all of those identity issue, and I keep on bringing it back down to identity, because we have lost who we are as individuals. We are Africans, you understand what I'm saying? It's just that we need to go back to, like you said, relearn, to find out more about yourself.
But I think also, back to what I said, our grandparents came here. So Alicia said it's the fear of the unknown. It's definitely the fear of the unknown. But our grandparents came here with the unknown, and they went forward and they tried to multiply as best they can.
Yeah.
So you never know until you try.
Right.
You just, like you said, how do you run a marathon? Well, you take the first step. How do you get up a mountain? You take the first step.
Exactly. When I said that I'm moving to Bedford, everyone was like, who'd you know there? You're moving to the sticks. It's going to be... And I think what made me buy a house in Bedford was my grandfather was on a ship for 4 weeks going to a whole different land that he had no clue about. And he worked 3 years of his life. So I can go up the M1 with a car and come back if I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? It's a mind shift.
Yeah.
It's a mind shift. And if you are prepared to be challenged in ways that you haven't been challenged before, to work with our people in a way that you haven't worked with them. We're used to kind of disregarding anything black. We're used to buying in an Asian shop over a black shop. You know what I'm saying? But it's about learning everything that we've learned. And it's not going to be overnight. We've got to be committed to things that are long term and not just for us. For me, it's about my daughter. As I said, she's 18 years old. And my daughter, thankfully, is a lot more African than I could ever be. She's very much committed to, when she has children, them being in Africa and learning there. So, that's what my legacy is. And I think it's important that we have a legacy which is reflective of who we are and our greatness. Staying in the UK, you're not going to get that. You're going to get a token Black History Month in October and suffice. You're going to get Stormzy's latest record, and you're going to get him celebrating and Dave talking about it at the Brits, and those things are amazing, don't get me wrong, but why not make it so that we're in our place and it's amongst our people and we're in control of the media and in control of in control of the economy, in control of our growth? Why not? These are things which have been limited by for far too long. That's how I see it.
Do you know what? You have been a beautiful addition to this conversation, and we love you, Tally. We love everything that you're doing.
I love you guys.
Thank you,
Tally.
Thank you so much.
With your creativity and your sound and everything you're doing, and the way you've brought your daughter up and your vision. You are a visionary. And like you said, it's people just need to be the movers and shakers, and you are definitely one of those. And believe me, people are going to start to follow in droves. So someone said you're inspirational, Tally. You have been a joy and
always
pleasure.
Inspirational. You're one of the biggest viewers on the Now Chat Show platform.
Yes, and I think that everyone that's on here, I think we all have that potential in us. It's about reconnecting to source, whether that's been in nature, whether that's been in your family, and you will connect and find it. And once you do, don't think about thinking about we and us.
Come on. Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. So I'll catch you guys. Lots of love. You take care. Blessings.
Thank you. Lots of love. Blessings. Bye, Queen. Bye. Wow. We're going to time out soon. So we are going to come back. We want to hear your views, everybody. We want you to get involved. We want to know, even if you think, oh, it's not realistic, don't be afraid. Let's talk about it. Somebody else mentioned about what about Africans who are actually here, those people from the continent who are here in the UK. That's a totally next level conversation. So we want to hear it all. We want to have that conversation, and we want you to join. Somebody's requested to join. I'm going to check who it is. Nanny Shahs, we're going to come back. Because we've literally got like about a minute left, a couple of minutes left, so we don't want to add you and then you get cut off. But just to read some of the comments. So guys, please stay with us. And also when you're on the live, please share the live. Yes. You've got the little arrow down the bottom. Please click the arrow and send it to as many people as you can, because the more that we get this message out there, it's the more that we'll get out of the mindset of not in our lifetime. And people will see that it's possible. Look, Tally's 36.
Exactly.
Bigs is 36.
Yeah.
They've both got land, so you know. All right, so we've got
So
20
let's
seconds
move
left. We will see you on the other side, guys. We'll be back very shortly. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Maybe get a cup of tea, but we'll see you shortly.
Not too far. See you in a bit.